Andy Robb, Ken Prell, the Philly Hockey Guys.
We'd like to welcome you to the first installment of the Reddit Roundtable, I guess we're going to be calling it upon your suggestion. It's a pretty good title
talking
there.
to people from Reddit, or could they be from other places?
No, they could be from other places as well, but, the alliteration, it
just
works. Yeah, it works. So for our first installment, joining us via Skype right now, we actually have two guests joining us from GNGHockey.com. Of course, it's Dylan Coyle and Andrew. I'm going to mess up your last name. So what's your last name again?
Ostrosky.
Ostrosky. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Of course, you can find all your work on GNGHockey.com. You've been following a lot of AHL teams, so let's kick things off by talking about that, specifically the Phantoms, who, as we know, got bounced by the Hershey Bears, but a pretty strong showing for their AHL playoff run. What do you think about it? We'll start with you, Dylan.
Actually, I'm more of the Bears reporter for the site, so I've definitely been following the Bears a lot more. Andrew's been kind of the Phantoms guy. But the Phantoms, I've been excited with how they've been playing, how they're doing. I really like how Ron Hextall has signed a lot of players to ATOs just for them to get a taste of what it's like in the playoffs. And just the fact that the Phantoms were the second best team in the AHL this season just speaks volumes to the Flyers prospect pipeline.
Now let's talk about the Hershey Bears then real quick. What did you like out of that team, and what contributed them to beating the Phantoms?
They just always seem to have a very good playoff roster all the time. I mean, they've got a lot of good pieces. Phoenix Copley, in my opinion, the goaltender for the Hershey Bears, was the reason that they won that series. I mean, if you watch any of the games, he just absolutely stole the show for the Bears. There were a lot of shots that should have gone in and did not. Of course, there was that game tire from center ice that Copley let in, which was the worst goal by far that he's let in all year. But I will say that Phoenix Copley was the main reason that the Bears were able to beat the Phantoms.
In regards to the Bears, they seem to always have good goaltending talent. I mean, look that's where Holtby came from as well.
Yeah, Holtby, Grubauer, and Neuvert, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Have all come through Hershey. And Copley was actually acquired in that Shattenkirk deal earlier in the year, so that was a lot of help for the Bears' playoff chances.
Now let's switch it to the other side, and let's talk about the Phantoms then. And of course, Andrew, what did you like out of the Phantoms during the playoffs?
Overall, their game was solid. They just got the short end of the stick in most games. They were the better team overall. Just some lucky stuff coming from the Bears netted their goals. First two games, I think the first one, overtime goal, went 0-0 into overtime. The goal let in, scored by the Bears, ended that game. Second game, Phantoms were leading the whole game up until they started choking in the last couple of minutes and let in the fifth goal for the Bears to put it 5-4 with 33 seconds left. Fifth game, it was yet again kind of like not really choke. It was more like it was evenly matched until the final period.
Andrew, are you still asleep?
No. Depressed. I'm killing myself later.
Oh my
God.
God.
I'm hearing, this is concerning because I'm hearing you say the word choke a lot. Is this what we have to look forward to moving up to the Flyers in the next couple seasons?
Look forward to choking. I think it was Colin McDonald in the very this is not an exact quote. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what he said. The team now has a taste of playoff hockey for the first time, I think, since 2010. Everyone should expect to know how to play in playoffs, and they should expect next year to go deeper into the playoffs.
Colin McDonald, I think, was a great addition. He contributed so much, and that also led to him ultimately making some pretty significant contributions on the Flyers towards the end of the season. What did you like out of Colin McDonald, aside from his leadership qualities that he brought to the table for the Phantoms?
He could score and set up plays. I think he finished with 44 points, 25 goals. Other than that, it was mostly leadership. Coming from either the bench or the locker room.
I really enjoy, if I can just step in real quick, I really enjoy watching Colin McDonald play. It's not necessarily his skill that is the huge indicator to me that he is a great player. It is that leadership capability that he has. I mean, he could play with the Flyers. There's no doubt about it. And there's, I believe, 3 games this year. He got that one beautiful goal against the Devils. But he is a player that the Phantoms prospects, and he's going to be a big part in building the Flyers prospects from the Phantoms up to the NHL, I think, in the years coming, because he does have that leadership capability, and he's able to have the players build off of it and then have an example on the ice. And I think that's going to play a huge role in the development of these players.
So you both see, I mean, obviously, the writing's on the wall, but, I just want to ask anyway. You see another strong season to come in the next year for the Phantoms, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Even with the possibility of a couple players leaving, they should have.
That's what I want to get to. The players leaving, the players that we can see up with the big club next year.
Well, before we get to that, real quick, let me just ask in terms of the players that have been on the Phantoms, by and large, let's just go with one offense, one defense. Who are some of the players that were the most impressive for the whole season for the Phantoms? And we'll start with you, Andrew.
At the beginning of the season, Jordan Wheel, and then obviously he went to the Flyers. But other than him, I would probably say Scott Lawton has improved since his time down in the AHL. Unless there's not a roster spot for him, which I doubt there will be on the Flyers, I would expect him to be back. That's my offense. And defense, Travis Sanheim. I can see he's kind of like almost an offense defenseman, but he kind of plays like more of a two-way game. He'll play the defense that he has to. And he'll step up and plays if need be. And
Dylan, what are your thoughts? One offensive player and a defensive player from the Phantoms that you particularly like this season.
I have to agree with Andrew that Scott Lawton really did impress this year. I feel like he's a player who is, for example, a very career-long AHLer that everybody has to know. It's Chris Bourque. He kind of reminds me of Bourque. They're going to be career AHLers, in my opinion. Lawton, I don't think will ever make an NHL team and continue to stay there. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to be a top-tier AHL player. I just don't see him being able to excel into the NHL with his career. And I also have to say, Greg Carey also had a fantastic year. I believe he led the team in goals. So there's that's another player that in the forward offensive category played well. Defensively, I also think Travis Sanheim was the greatest defensive player that the Phantoms had this year. Just the way he's able to make plays, the way he's able to control the puck and start the rush and enter the offensive zone. It's just remarkable. It's outstanding. But if I had to pick a player that would come up to the Flyers next year, it would probably for sure be Robert Haig, at least one of them.
Okay. All right. So let's segue into your next batch of questions.
Yeah, because everything you do here, I think I agree with Dylan, is that Haig is probably the most NHL ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it'll be a shock if he doesn't make the team come this fall.
Yeah.
So who I'm really, hoping to see is Sanheim.
Did you like Moran, though?
Yeah, I did. I think Samuel Moran, he's somebody who has a lot of raw talent. I just don't know if he's going to be able to make the NHL next year. I'd prefer to see him play another year with the Phantoms. Sanheim has the highest ceiling, I think, out of any defensive prospect there is. And that's just why I simply think he's the most exciting. I don't think he's going to come up with the team either. I personally also believe that it might be Moran, even though I don't think he's completely ready. I just think Hextall likes what he sees out of him, especially bringing him up to the NHL with the Flyers for one game this season. So, as I was saying, I think it's Haig and Moran that comes up with the Flyers next year.
And if both of those guys do make the jump up to the NHL, it's got to get you excited.
For Haig and Moran, you mean?
Yeah. But the Flyers back end altogether, I think Ghost rebounded after a poor start. And then Provorov, who was probably arguably the Flyers' best defenseman this year. So, to have all of this young talent on the back end actually potentially be in the NHL next season,
mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that, and I can live with the growing pain in the back.
Completely agree with you, Ken. Completely agree with you. I can live with the pain of losing so much and missing the playoffs if it means that you're going to be in contention for a Stanley Cup in the coming years.
Yeah, so get them that experience. I think that was one of the most frustrating things with this Flyers team this year is that you were kind of saddled with a bunch of guys that you knew were not going to be here either
mm-hmm.
next year or definitely 2 years.
Yeah, because you got Del Zotto gone, you got
Yeah.
Schultz gone, maybe McDonald gets picked up by Vegas, maybe.
In a dream world,
Maybe.
yes.
Hey, it's the city that runs on luck, right? If we could get Listen, I'll tell you what, and I've mentioned that before. I know that we're probably going to pick it too, but if you wanted to get rid of the McDonald contract, the number 2 pick in a trade is a way to do it. Be like, yeah, you want this? You have to take McDonald first of all, and then you've got to, take X and X and X and X and X and X. But he can get a king's ransom. Guys, let's real quick now that we're on that. The number 2 pick, guys. What do you think? Like Hextall could really, really land a sweet haul, right? And if he wanted to, right?
If he wanted to, yes.
I don't think he wants to.
Yeah. So who do you guys like overall for number 2 then?
I know both of you have been scouting these players for months now.
Yeah, of course. That's why I'm asking.
My name is Bob McKenzie. I might not sound like him. I don't know who to pick.
Yeah.
Okay? We have the easiest draft position in the entire world right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's whoever the Devils don't pick. I don't know if I have a preference. I really struggle with this myself, and I don't want to look too much into it because I don't want to be too hurt no matter what happens. But it's just Patrick has so much of a physical style. He reminds me of Jonathan Taves. That's who Patrick reminds me of. Hersher, I think that I forget how to pronounce his name.
That's why I want them to take Patrick. Just give me the easiest pronouncing name, and that's the guy I want.
The Swiss guy, all right? Nico. We're going to call him Nico Hersher. I think that's how to pronounce it. I don't even know.
I think you're correct in that, yeah.
So I think he's definitely the flashier player of the two. To be honest, I don't care who the Flyers get. It's just the fact that we have the number 2 pick in a 2-player draft is just incredible. Yeah. And to answer your next question, no, we will not trade that pick.
I would have to agree, but I'm just saying I'm playing devil's advocate. If Hextall wanted to, he could probably get floored by something great.
I mean, and Dylan, you just really said it. That's the great thing about this draft, that it is a 2-player draft. No matter, you've seen the articles out there that no matter who the Flyers end up with, it's going to be a really solid player. Something different than the last time the Flyers picked at number 2, where there was such a drop-off from Kane to Van Riemsdyk.
Yeah.
So hopefully this time around it actually works for the Flyers. And you're right, it is an easy setup for Hextall. You just pick the guy who's left over.
Unless New Jersey decides to do something out of left field and take somebody else.
You guys are absolutely right. There's really no other way to slice it. I mean, number 2, no matter what we wind up with at 2 overall, I mean, number 1, it's impressive and amazing enough that it even happened. Like how the hell, everyone was saying, you're going to be, the highest you might go is maybe 10th, but we're probably going to pick 13th. And it's amazing. And you're absolutely right about saying, no matter what, we're a winner out of this draft. I can't wait for it to come around. Honestly.
And it's a big deal when Hextall is jumping up on a couch.
Well, actually, I was so you know how everyone asks, where were you when the Phillies won the World Series?
Blackout drunk.
I was in 4th grade, so obviously I was not blackout drunk myself. But I definitely have a story about the 2nd overall pick. So my friend and I, we were at the Bears game versus the Phantoms, and we were watching the game. The game was there. We were watching the draft rankings on our phone. So we're watching it the 2nd period, and then we see the Flyers are not 13th. It's Winnipeg. Let's just say everybody next to us thought we were kind of crazy because we were very excited, and I'm so excited. So I was kind of jumping around, and I couldn't even focus on the game.
I believe it.
I mean, it was unbelievable. There was a few members of the Flyers management there at the game as well. So I was talking to the Phantoms press person, Dan Freemuth, and I asked him, what did the Flyers management think of that thing? He said Hextall wasn't there, but he said they were pretty surprised. They weren't so excited, but they were happy with it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I bet you they were jumping up in joy.
Yeah, because the odds of that happening are just ridiculous. And it does make me feel a little bit better about 2007. It kind of makes up for it, with losing.
Not really.
We lost out on
How many
Kane.
cups have Chicago won?
We
since
lost
then?
out on Kane and drafted a guy that we traded for Braden Shen's brother.
And then we traded him for Jordan Wheel, so maybe the world is all good.
That's true.
There's balance.
That is one part that is overlooked in that trade. Jordan Wheel.
And that's also we also dumped LeCavalier for that too.
But Wheel is just completely overlooked in that trade. And
Mm-hmm.
if he can piggyback on what he did, with the Phantoms and what he did when he came up with the Flyers last year, that's another guy to be excited for this coming season.
Yeah.
And again, a young guy.
Yeah.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on Jordan Wheel? Watching him grow you were talking earlier about him at the beginning of the season. How do you think he's developed ever since then and since joining the Flyers?
I think he's become like a kind of a, not really goal scoring threat to the NHL, but puts up numbers that would be expected from third, fourth line. I expect him to stay on the team next year. But yeah, I'd expect maybe almost 20 goals, maybe 20 goals might be pushing it, but
If you're getting 20 goals out of a guy on your fourth line, you're gold at that point.
So what would you have on that fourth line then? You would have him, you would have Bellemare on your fourth line?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, you think so? I mean, that seems like a pretty solid, fourth line. I mean,
my concern next year is not what's happening on the fourth line. It's what the first line does.
What the first line does.
What about Oscar Lindblom?
That's the name. There it is. I was waiting to see how long it would take for that name to come up.
Let's get into that. Of course, it's been known now that he won't be returning to Swedish play for next season, and
it's going to be a real disappointment if he doesn't make the Flyers.
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on Lindblom and his odds for making the Flyers for next year?
Yeah, I really want to see Lindblom make the Flyers, of course. I mean, when you are so young, I believe he's 19 years old, and you're winning the top forward in the Swedish Hockey League, which granted is not it's not to the same level of the NHL, but I'd say it's the third best professional league in the world. And you're winning that award amongst men.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That is so impressive that if Lindblom does not come over here and make the Flyers, I will personally tell Dave Haxtell to please put him on that team very kindly, because I'm sure he'll listen to that.
And don't make him a healthy scratch, because that seems to be Haxtell's favorite thing to do with young players.
Yes. Quit trying to make Van de Velde happen.
Stop trying to make Van de Velde work. It will never work.
Yeah. Andrew, what about your thoughts about Lindblom with his shot of potentially making the team next year? Or would you like to see him in the AHL more?
I'd see if they could test him out in the NHL, see how he does for maybe 5-10 games. If he does well in the NHL, I'd say keep him up. If he doesn't do so good, I think he's AHL eligible. I think 19 is the cutoff. Then, yeah, I'd like to see him down in Lehigh Valley.
It'd be awesome to see. I mean, regardless of however it works out, just to see a little bit more of this kid, in North America.
Well, you have him who's 19. Chances are you have a draft pick.
20 years old. Just looked it up.
Yeah, 20 years old. So, and then you have, whoever your draft pick's going to be, has probably a very good chance of making this team.
And you also got that other guy that they just signed. Their draft pick from 2015, Vorobyov, or
I don't know too much about him, but I believe he's a winger, left wing, if I remember.
Well,
correctly.
they need all the help they can get on at wing at this point. So, chances are, whoever they draft is going to be a center, even though I know the experiment will happen where they bounce this, whoever the pick is going to be, to the wing, unless they do something really crazy and maybe even try Giroux out as a winger.
We've had that discussion before.
Yeah.
I think we kind of asked that just as a loose question on our takeover episode. And I've also said, and I'm just going to say it now, no shame, Jágr becomes a free agent again at the end of the season.
We're going young. We're going young.
It's not going to happen, even though I want it to happen.
I know. I'm wearing my Jágr shirt right now, actually, as we're recording this.
Of course. I don't know if Drew will ever get an experiment out on the wing. He played there in his early years. It's just the thing that hurts, and I'm not sure if you just start him as a center each shift and then play him as a wing for the remainder of it, because his face-off percentage is 55.9% for this past season. He was 10th in the league. He's always one of the top face-off takers in the entire NHL.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Well, I would like to see something like this happen. What if each time that play stops and he comes out for a shift, he takes the face off and immediately plays on the wing?
I don't know if Hackstall has that creativity.
I'll be assistant coach, Hackstall. I'm here.
Have they called you yet about the becoming the new power play coach?
I had an interview the other day with Ron Hextall. For some reason, he kicked me out and said, "I have no idea who you are." So that's how that went.
Speaking of that, they are going to be looking for some new coaching talent behind the bench. They are still keeping Lapierre around. Ken's already shaking his head. Go ahead, I'll let you take this one
we
over.
talked about it in the last show. I mean, this team under him on the penalty kill has been bottom third of the league the last 3 years. So why you keep them around? I mean, I understand it's the Flyers' way. You never get rid of one of your own. I just would like to see some new blood behind the bench altogether.
I'd agree with you there, Ken. I mean, Lapierre, as much as I like him, I loved how he played. I mean, he literally took pucks to the face for this team. I just don't really think his method is working out, and I think that's an issue with how the Flyers have done business. In some ways, it's good to keep the players and the past players associated with the team in many positions. But there has to come a point where if someone becomes a liability to the team, what are you going to do then? I mean, it's basically like a boss having to tell one of his best workers when they make a mistake, you're done for. It's hard to do, but are the Flyers ever going to do something similar to that?
I at least haven't seen any evidence of that changing. And the other thing that I think would be, this is the perfect time to make these types of changes, is that you are going to go young next year.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the time to make those changes.
Yeah.
So, and I know my crusade for Darryl Sutter is not going anywhere. It may have to wait a year. It looks like he's going to take a year off, so we don't lose him anywhere. But another year of watching Hackstall asleep behind the bench, I don't know if I can take that.
I give him to the halfway point, and if the Flyers are in a playoff spot, keep him there. If they're not, I think he deserves the axe. I don't hate Hackstall. I feel like he's a young coach with no experience before coming to the Flyers with this job. And it takes a lot of time to actually feel comfortable. But some of the decisions he makes just reeks of being a college coach. I mean, it's not like Chip Kelly, where Chip Kelly was so controlling and other signs that made sure that he was not that great of a coach. But just the fact that I think that when you have good players who have off nights, it's not a short college season where they're still kids and learning. These are paid professionals, and I feel like when you're constantly sitting players who usually do good but don't have a good game, what does that say to the other players of the team? It creates an atmosphere of being scared to have a good game and not excited to have a good one.
I mean, it's a great point because, you even heard Ghost at the end of the season say, you know what, I just didn't care if I got yelled at anymore. I was going to go out and have fun. And you saw his play change. And the other thing that's kind of been disappointing is that I was excited when the Flyers actually hired Hackstall because you heard about how North Dakota played. They played like their hair was on fire all the time. You don't see that in the Flyers. And I understand college to the NHL is going to be different, but, I mean, there's a lot of time where it's very lackluster play. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing that, has really happened when Laviolette was the coach, when Berube was the coach, now when Hackstall's the coach. Come out, slow starts to the season, slow starts to these games in the first period. So, I'm throwing a lot of heat on Hackstall on this, and I've said it before. Maybe it's not Hackstall. Maybe it's not Berube. Maybe it wasn't Laviolette. Maybe it's the players. Maybe it's the core of this team that needs to be shook up.
Your thoughts on that, guys?
I can't really see the core of the team being shaken up. I think they need to stop shaking up the lines like game after game.
I'm not talking about lines. I'm talking about team. I'm talking about the core overall. Do you do something crazy and expose a Voracek in the expansion draft to free up $8 million in salary?
What are you on right now? Where can I get some of that?
Notice how I haven't said anything, and I just let him just.
is keeping Voracek around for another, 6 seasons at that salary.
I wouldn't expose Voracek or anyone else with like around $8 million contract. But no, as of right now, it's the team is decent, but with additions that they could have, it could be better.
Okay, I
think
agree.
I'm just demonstrating why I'll never be a general manager in the NHL.
Yeah, well, Voracek was in the IHF Worlds right now. He's been having a pretty good performance. He had a goal earlier today. I believe.
I'm glad he can do that in the Worlds and not in the NHL for the Flyers.
Okay.
So that's great.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hold on. All right, I'm going to say this. I created the other day, hopefully this will actually become an article on Broad Street Hockey fairly soon, because I have to talk to Travis about that. I created a statistic, okay?
All right.
Do you guys know how to do math?
No.
That's why we work in radio.
Yeah, that's why we picked radio.
all right. Let me tell you what this is, okay?
All right.
This is called the on-ice contribution number. All right, the OIC. What this tries to do. What? My face right now, but I'm shaking my head in disappointment.
That's pretty much every day I'm around Andy. So yeah, that's welcome to my world.
All right, so this statistic basically tries to show how good a player is on that team, and the formula has to do, and I'm not going to say exactly how it is. It adds up 4 pieces of a player's stats. It adds up. So it does this. It takes their points per game. So let's just say 82 points over 82 games. 82 divided by 82 equals 1. I multiply that by 2 to give points per game some weight. Then I add on if a player has played at the average expected time on ice. And for especially Andy, let me explain what this is. This is if a player with a actual team, if the player plays 16 minutes and 40 seconds, that's what, if every player could do that, that's what every time on ice, if everyone said, all right, let's have the time on ice be equal, every player have equal time on ice, this is what the time on ice would be, 16 minutes and 40 seconds for each player on the ice. So if you play at or above 16 minutes and 40 seconds per game on average, then you get a 1. Which is the max. The domain ranges from 0 to 1. All right, so that's a little confusing. Then we add on shot percentage, which is, of course, just goals divided by total shots. And lastly, we add on the average of the player's Corsi and Fenwick. And then I divide all those numbers by 4 and multiply them by 100 to make it easier to see. And now, since the math portion's out of the way, the number basically shows how well a player has played and contributed to his team. And I did this for the entire Flyers roster, okay?
All right.
The numbers show that Jake Voracek is at a 77.21, and he's 2 points ahead of the other Flyers. Now, let me just give you a scale. It's really difficult to get over 100. It's possible. But if you get over 100, you're an unbelievable talent. I mean, it's basically like quarterback rating in football.
Okay.
Connor McDavid, for example, is over 100. He's 102 with this whole thing. So going down the list, you've got Jake Voracek at 77.21, Braden Shen 75.7, Drew 75.54. If you go all the way down, if you want to see someone who played the entire season, it's Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who's the worst with 33.62.
So I'm interested in knowing, where does Simmons fall on that then?
Simmons falls fourth on the team. So Voracek has 77, Shen has 75, so does Giroux. Simmons has a straight out 74.
So by the numbers, by and large, you're saying that this core is still has
terrible. That's what I got out of that, because if you're looking at 100 as the we have a bunch of C+ players. On the core.
No, Connor McDavid's an absolute generational talent, and he's getting 102. I mean,
so 102,
that's unbelievable.
So there's a big difference between 102 and now 77. So there's a lot of your, supposed players and stars who are making this kind of money, $8 million, who are scoring now on your sheet here of 77 and 75. $16 million tied up in 2 players who are C pluses?
Give me a player who you think would go above or beyond like the statistics that Voracek, Simmons, drew.
Dale Weiss.
Dale Weiss falls into 19th at 42.98.
Hey, all right.
Worth every penny. Now,
Woo!
what if you do that over just the last 14 games of the season for Dale Weiss? He's got to be at a 105 at that point, probably the best player in the NHL.
Possibly, but I can't do that right off the top of my head, Ken. Give me a player. Give me a player from this season. Brad Marchand. All right. Also got a rating for Alexander Ovechkin as well.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, Alex Ovechkin this season, many people said he had a down year. Is that correct?
Yeah, he didn't score 50 goals. I was disappointed.
His rating is 82.5. So he has an 82.5 rating with the OIC. Remember, the top player for the Flyers is Voracek with a 77. Brad Marchand, who was basically in the running for the Art Ross for a lot of the year until McDavid kind of took it away, he finished with a 97.62.
Wow. Very.
Brad Marchand better than Ovechkin confirmed.
Sure. But this year, yeah, he was.
I was not expecting to hear that. I wasn't expecting to hear that, the takeaway from this season is that Marchand is a better player by the numbers than Ovechkin.
The takeaway from all of this is that the Flyers are wasting $16 million a year on two players
Here we go.
who are C-plus players at this point.
Do you like stirring controversy? Is that why you're a radio host?
Never.
That's how you get views, Dylan.
Never.
Of course.
Look,
well,
the only reason.
Marchand
Look, I
got 85
love Voracek. I think one of my favorite players, but he doesn't have the no movement clause. Giroux does, so I can't do anything with Giroux. So now I got to look at how am I going to free up some cap space, and Voracek's the guy.
Big sale.
Bake sale.
I don't know if you can make up cap space with a bake sale.
I don't know, man. If you make
If we can,
if you make good enough cookies, people might come around. I don't know, but so what we're gonna do is we're going to do another installment of this, and as we get closer to, I guess, the draft or other things like that, we're gonna have we'd like to have you guys to talk some more projections and thoughts about as we get a little bit closer, we'll ask these questions again with who is protected, who's unprotected, and stuff like that as we get closer to it, because it's been awesome taking the time to chat with you guys for a while today.
I was just glad Dylan agreed with me. Let's expose Voracek in the expansion.
I said no such thing. I never said that.
Make sure you comment on all his articles and let him know.
Oh, I swear. No.
So, guys, real quick before we let you go, we'd love to you guys just go ahead and plug where we can find some of your writing and stuff online. Go ahead.
All right, I can take this one. So, Good Night Good Hockey is the name of our website, gnghockey.com. I was surprised Andy got that right into the intro, but I didn't want to say anything
I've
until
been
now.
saying it enough.
There was a $5 bet before the show, so now I owe him $5.
Oh, I'm so sorry
Yeah,
about
that's
that. But anyway, we cover the Flyers, the Hershey Bears, Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Cover next year. We have some really awesome plans coming. Hopefully soon we'll have T-shirts to order. We are looking into getting a podcast started up soon. It's not going to compete with you guys. It's not just about the Flyers, all right? So
no, it would be nice to actually have a podcast about hockey for once to listen to instead of the garbage we throw out there.
Oh, wow. And then we hopefully next year, we are for sure 100%. We are broadcasting and live streaming Temple hockey games. We might also get our own radio show on Temple WHIP called the Good Night Good Hockey Show.
Very cool.
Thank you. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up.
Well, we hope to stay in touch and be a part of whatever you guys have going on as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, whenever you guys would like to have me or both of us or just Andrew, which I don't know why, because Andrew's an interesting character. Right, Andrew?
Well, you just said I'm interesting, so then why wouldn't they want me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm leaving.
And Dylan, when you get your podcast started up, if you need a co-host, I'm always available.
Oh, shut up.
So I don't have to work with this joker anymore.
Hey, listen, I will take you up on that offer to also kick Andy out of your show. So
Fine, have fun doing Weiss's pieces without me.
All All right, I'm leaving.
All right. Well, guys, once again, thank you so much, Andrew Ostrosky and Dylan Coyle from GNGHockey.com. Guys, we will be talking to you once again very soon, and thank you again so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Don't worry about that.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like the Philly Hockey Guys podcast page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Philly Hockey Guy, and subscribe on iTunes, TuneIn, and SoundCloud.